This is going to suck. So, for those of you who don't know me super well, my name is Emily, and I have live streamed with my husband for the last 10 years until we broke up last year. I instigated the breakup, but he was being unfaithful, and I already made a video discussing how I felt about the relationship ending, and I think that still pretty much sums up like what I actually want people to know. That said, I think I made a really big mistake in how I handled the breakup. So I kind of need to give you more information about who I am outside of my like entertainer streaming persona, so that you can kind of understand where I'm coming from. So I grew up in a unhappy home. I mean, I guess let's call it what it is. I grew up in an abusive household, and any information that my parents could get about me were used against me. And so I always kept my guard up. Um, it sounds silly, I think, to be a live streamer who like likes privacy. Um, but that's how I've gone through life since childhood. So, when I came home from school, my parents would ask me how my day was, and, whatever had happened, if I'd had a fight with friends, I'd say it was fine. If I'd got detention, I would say it was fine. If I'd been bullied, I would say it was fine. And that was kind of my way of moving through the world, and it kept me safe. So when I cut my parents off many years later, I was really concerned about my mum. I didn't want her to lose friends, and the family that she loved. And so I didn't reach out to my extended family, telling stories and explaining to them what had gone on. Um, I thought that my parents and I were sorting it out. I thought we were working through some of the problems and that we would reconcile. Now, that didn't happen, but in that year, I just didn't want my mum to become alienated. So when it became clear that my parents and I wouldn't be reconciling, I started reaching out to extended family, and nobody wanted to speak to me. All my messages went unanswered, and my aunts and uncles hung up, and it made everything a ton worse. Now, I'd made a mistake. All the time that I thought my parents and I were working through our issues, they were spreading stories. They were talking about how sad they were, how they didn't understand what had happened, how unappreciative and selfish I was. And obviously, although none of that is true, by the time I got to my family, it was too late. And obviously, I was left pretty heartbroken. It seems that after Fred and I broke up, I made the same mistake. I kept my cards too close to my chest, thinking that keeping my personal life personal and my public life public was protecting myself and at the same time Fred. I was very angry at him, but he's also a person I've spent every day with for the last 11 years. I loved him with all my heart. I wish the breakup wasn't the only solution for, his behavior, but sadly it was. He needed to go off and work on himself. And I knew that if I took him back, the focus on the relationship would be me. I didn't want our relationship to be about making me feel better. And it wasn't what he needed either. The story of Fred's mental health is his to share, not mine, but I can say that I was kind of there as an enabler, and with that, there was no room for him to grow. And so we broke up, and he moved out, and through really fucking hard work and suffering, I made it work. I gave him the main Twitch channel, so that he could afford to pay his rent, and I made it work. And I had just signed a contract for this really expensive London flat, which used to be split 3 ways. And now it was just on me, and I made it work. And I didn't post about it because I did not feel like it was anybody else's problem. I'm a woman on the internet. I know that people don't want to see me sad and crying and, ugly. And so I tried to show positivity as much as I could. And I also knew that every time I appeared depressed or heartbroken, Fred lost followers and support. And when Fred loses followers, I feel bad. And also, when he loses followers, he loses money. And then I have to help him. And that's more pressure on me. So I really focused on the future. And, as best I could. I focused on myself. I focused on my new brand and new ideas. And trying really hard to keep my mental health out of the gutter and not let fear and depression overtake me in a way that is really easy for me to do. I haven't been perfect, obviously. The stress has really affected my health, and some days it was really too hard to put a face on it, and so I didn't. Um, I really like making fun content. I like making people laugh. I really don't like playing a pity party, so I tried not to. But now it seems after many months of slowly rebuilding, people have seen my presentation of like strength and seem to think it means that I'm not suffering. And Fred is, that I'm living the high life and Fred has been left out in the cold. Now, they couldn't be more wrong. But I suppose that's the point. I put the show on too well. And now I'm suffering for it. The misogyny of it is obviously not lost on me. The idea that I owe the man who cheated on me anything is wild. And that said, he is my best friend. He was the love of my life. And so behind closed doors, we have worked really hard to build a friendship and like actually build trust between us again. We've been really kind and helpful to each other. And that makes me happy. I like that. We're doing what we need to do as adults. And I really hope that the rest of you can act similarly. Just because I seem happy and successful does not mean I am. Just because I put on a brave face does not mean I'm not chronically depressed and struggling. Just because you may have more access to Fred's feelings than mine does not mean that mine don't exist. Okay? So this is a statement to anyone who thinks that I have ducked and run. I did not, right? I didn't leave my marriage and my business and my whole life lightly. It has not been easy. It has actually been so unbelievably hard. But it was the right choice for me and for Fred. And just because you're mad, I was brave enough to make that choice does not mean I did it easily or for my own pleasure. Please enjoy the happy moments that I put out there. The podcast I've got with my sister, silly presentations that we make, talking shit about politics, redecorating my flat, playing stupid games, moments where I'm feeling myself. Please enjoy the exciting new direction that Fred is moving his content and his life in. And don't assume just because you see one side that you know everything about the situation, because you don't. People, often say the ones who seem the happiest are the most depressed. And honestly, for me, that has been true my entire life. So in summary, if I mention my breakup or about how my life has changed, this is not me taking a pop at Fred. Just because Fred has been more forthcoming with his heartbreak does not mean that I am not feeling it. Please stop kind of baby girling a nearly 40-year-old man. He made his choices. He is now living with them. I would expect you to trust him to know what's best for him. And I also would expect you to have enough respect for me to know that I am not a vengeful bitch. If you think I haven't been putting on a brave face very well, and you think that I haven't been making enough content, or the exact content that you would like, or whatever else, or you don't like me making content when Fred isn't here, I'm not surprised. I definitely, as a woman content creator, kind of got to slip under the radar because I was with a man. Now I'm making content on my own as a woman. I'm definitely getting a lot more of that, like, woman in the creator space experience. But feel free to mind your own business, I haven't asked anyone to do anything for me. I haven't asked for any help. I haven't asked for anyone to fundraise for me. I also haven't opened the door for opinions on what I'm doing. I'm not asking for that, and therefore keep it to yourself. Yes, I will say Fred has made the mistake in opening that door, but I am not Fred, okay? And while he may have been too open, I wasn't for a specific reason. He has already realized his mistake. We've obviously spoken about this a lot. And once again, he is having to live with those consequences, as am I. But I wish I didn't have to. So if you think you know what happened in my breakup, no, you don't, because I haven't told you. And I know for a fact that neither has Fred. So if you could get a grip of this, he made one tiny mistake and Emily left him narrative, that would make me feel good. It doesn't surprise me people think that badly of me, but it does make me sad. I also need you to understand that I have survived worse, and I will survive this. I'm really happy for Fred, and I wish him well, and I'm proud of myself, and I'm very proud of him and all the growth that he is managing. And I can only hope that things will keep improving for both of us here on out. I'm hoping this is the last I'm going to have to say on it over here. I think I will be talking about it a little bit on live stream because, I have feelings and opinions and I'm allowed to have them. That being said, I would like to thank everyone who has been supporting me for the support. Keep an eye out for exciting new things happening over here. And there will be a Glastonbury vlog once Glastonbury's done. So, yeah, sending you all peace and love and good vibes. And I'll see you soon.